Now this is a story all about how my life got twisted upside down. In 2020, I was looking for a sustainable deodorant. I was aware that I was using a lot of plastic, and while I want to fight things systemically, every time I went to buy a plastic roll-on deodorant, my heart just sunk a little bit, and I was like, why do I have to do this? I know that systemically maybe me just buying one deodorant isn't going to make all the difference, but I'd just rather not. Do you know what I mean? And I was targeted on Instagram by this brand called Wild, and they were a really small startup. They were making refillable, natural, vegan, cruelty-free, B Corp certified deodorant. Do you know how rare that is? And so obviously I bought some with my own money and I really liked it and I started using it. Little did I know I was on the path to heartbreak. Now, hello, you might not have been here before. My name's Lena. I am currently in my forest of discontent, which is where I go when I want to rant to you about something. And oh, do I have a rant for you today. Other important information is that I am formerly a booktuber. I still talk about books on the channel sometimes. But the problem came when I actually started reading those books, and some of those books tell you facts about the climate, and some of those climate facts are kind of undeniable, and you start thinking, maybe I should start taking this freaking seriously. That's why capitalism should fear the booktubers the most, especially the ones that actually read the books. And so since then, I've been in the really lucky position of being able to build a career for myself online, discussing my positive panic. Recording the process of me trying to be a half-assed vegan, of learning how to make my own clothes, and to really dig into the psychology of how we're gonna even compute this climate crisis that is coming up. And one of the things I really care about when it comes to my customized job, my job that I have built myself, is that I will only work with brands that admit the climate crisis exists. I'm not even saying they have to be perfect. Spotless, blemishless, sinless. I'm not asking for that. Because I don't ask that of myself. All I am asking is that in their actions, they are not blatantly denying the climate crisis. And they are doing a reasonable amount to create things that legitimately could exist in a future where humanity survives. I think that's the lowest of bars, don't you? I think that bar is literally down here. Can you see the bar? So let's pick up this love story where we left off. I start working with Wild deodorant. They approach me, they know that, they found out that I'm an influencer. Hey, do you want to try our deodorants? And I say, actually, you're in luck because I'm already a freaking customer. I've already given you some of my money and I actually genuinely like the product. I keep buying it because it works for me. And they were like, ideal. So over the last nearly 5 years, we have been doing consistent brand deals where I have been honestly shouting about their products on my Instagram in the way that I was already shouting about the products in real life. I've genuinely recommended it to friends, given them codes, given them cases as birthday presents, all of that. And I start spending hours working with this company, making content like this for them and sharing my love of them with you. Now, because there aren't that many brands I actually agree with to work with, remember the bar down here, and because I don't want to oversaturate you lot with adverts, I have been turning down a lot of other brands. And one of the things in my head is well, I already have a thing with Wild that I'm doing, so I don't want to oversaturate my feed. I won't take on those brand deals. Me and Wild, we're tight. It's not a legal requirement for us to stay friends, but it looks likely, and they've been very generous to me. I'm very, very generous to them. I often gave them discounted prices. No shade to the people that work there, but they often tried to barter me down and really push me to the bottom end of what I could afford to work for. And I always went for it because I was like, you guys are fighting the bad boys. I'm gonna help you do that. That's fine by me. And then a big crack started to show. A rumour went round on the internet at the beginning of 2025 that Wild might be bought by Unilever, the next character in this tragedy. Hi Unilever. Who are Unilever, you might ask? That's fair. You might not recognise this logo, but you for sure recognise some of these ones. In fact, I bet my bottom tiny little dollar that you have some of these products in your house right now. Now, I'm not going to go into all of the things that they potentially have done because I don't want to have to create a completely legally tight, unlibelous, completely unsuable statement video about all the awful things that Unilever have potentially done, but I would say that it is public knowledge that they are public eco-enemy number one. Suffice to say, they have been accused of, with significant and pretty damning evidence, intentionally causing mass deforestation, funding Russia's attacks on Ukraine, human rights abuses in their supply chain that they readily knew about, historically sexist and racist adverts with very little public regret, even now, being one of the biggest plastic polluters in the world, categorically the reason most of your supermarket shelves are not cruelty-free. Like 95% of British shelves are filled with Unilever products and they're not cruelty-free, and that's probably why, despite decades of campaigning and most people of the public not wanting things to hurt animals, ousting members of staff for being pro-Palestine, using palm oil with wild abandon, pun intended. And this isn't just like historical, even though they have been around for a while, so if there is a bad precedent for the way our toiletries and cleaning and all of these other brands kind of industries are, Unilever have been there and have been setting the precedent for that and not acting on anything. Since 2010, which in my mind is very recent, don't tell me that it's not. Since 2010, they have increased their production of plastic unrecyclable sachets by 40%. Literally, in 2023, they made 53 billion of these things. So they're not just, they mean it. They mean that they're doing it on purpose. Or so says the Greenpeace website and other reputable academics. Now, language is important here, and I actually think I slipped up earlier in that I said they have been bought by Unilever. I think the language we should all be using isn't they were bought by, but the founders sold them to Unilever. And a lot of you have been asking me online how I feel about it. And I can tell you, I feel angry. This sale happened in April, and it's taken me this long to calm down enough to make a video. So there you go, if you're wondering how I feel about it. That's how I feel. Here's the email I sent to them before they announced the sale. Hi, X, the person who works there. I've just seen this news coverage, linked to a news article from Sky News, and wondered if you might be able to pass on to your senior management that if the sale of this goes through, I will no longer be collaborating with Wild in any capacity. In fact, it is also damaging to my personal brand that I will need to make a public statement of disassociation and write a video essay covering Unilever's appalling environmental record and why its association with Wild contradicts everything the company pretends to stand for. I'd also be advising all of my fellow creators with whom you work to cut any association with the brand. Like Wild's target audience, my own audience are very sensitive to contradictory associations like this and are very well versed in the environmental crimes Unilever continues to commit. I don't see any way forward for this core consumer base or my own if this sale is to go through. All they replied with me is to say, oh, really appreciate your feedback, we'll pass it on, we have no comment at this time, which to me meant it's freaking happening, isn't it? And it did happen. And did I hear another wink from then? Absolutely not. Not an email after years of working together. No, not even like a mass creator, influencer, comms email. Like nothing. I emailed them today to tell them that I was making this video and if they had a statement, and they were basically like, no, we don't have a statement. We don't want to reply to any of your questions, but here's like the public statement about why we did it. And the public statement is just basically like, we're really excited about this because it means we'll have access to Unilever's resources to make the world a better place, to make the plastic-free shelves. And I wanted to respond to that a little bit and give you some insight into why the statements that you might want to say that is like, oh Lena, it's okay because the products that you're buying are still reducing plastic and the products that you're promoting are still reducing plastic, so it's fine. Or like, at least Unilever are investing in green companies, isn't that amazing? Why those don't sit well with me, why they don't calm me down in any way. The first one is monopolies matter. Like I said, go to a supermarket and try and buy some of your normal products and see if you can completely dodge Unilever. It's basically impossible, although you can't blame a girl for trying. I haven't read all that I would like to about the climate. I have no formal training in it. I'm not an academic, I'm not a researcher, I'm just a woman in the woods who likes to read books. And from what the little I've read, it becomes absolutely smackingly clear to me that monopolies cannot exist in a livable future, that businesses like this historically literally never help, and the idea that Wild, by being bought by Unilever, will be able to grow their market share in deodorant, even though Unilever are selling all of these brands, which are much cheaper and more profitable to make, are the words of a drunk person. Only a drunk person would think that. Since they do have a huge market majority share, though, in the deodorant that globally most of us buy, plus all the toiletries and cleaning products and all of that, and food and everything else as well, but let's just think about the deodorant for now. If they really cared about an incredibly simple idea that has been around for decades, refillable toiletries, they would have done it by now. There is literally nothing holding them back from not only producing those products but swaying the public. They have some of the most powerful advertising machines behind them that have persuaded us all that we're too fat, too ugly, unattractive to men. They're the people that were responsible for the Lynx adverts, let's not forget. Oh, the 2010s. What a time. The fact that Unilever were even trying to acquire them means that they were getting a bit too much market share. They just started getting stocked in my local supermarket. They were like one of the only non-Unilever products on my shelves. And it's almost kind of sad but exciting that Unilever were threatened by it. Threatened enough to own it. And the thing is, yeah, they might grow the brand, but they also might like purposely destroy it. That's like 101 business. See a competitor, buy a competitor, pretend to support a competitor for a couple of years and then quietly close it. You don't need to be a binge watcher of Dragon's Den or like read the Business Insider to know that that's just like normal big business practice. But it seems to me that if it was for market reasons that aren't about destroying Wild, it would be because they see sustainability as a new growth area for consumer desire, which is cool, but it's treating it as a taste, as a preference, rather than what it is for a lot of people, I think, which is a boycott. Now we'll get on to that. I think this is the difference between purity versus direction. Now, if I was a purity consumer, I'd be like, oh, I don't want to touch anything that has animal products in it. Oh, that grosses me out. I don't want to feel like I'm part of the problem, and I would like to buy my way to that by only buying products that don't have plastic in them, because I want to feel like I don't want to touch plastic, I don't want to think about plastic, I don't want the aesthetics of plastic in my home. That's why I want a sustainable deodorant. That's not why I'm buying sustainable deodorant, bitch. Do you think we're playing here? I don't want to buy non-vegan, non-cruelty-free products, not because it makes me feel icky or I just don't like it or it's just not my taste. It's because I think it's bloody wrong. And when you think something's bloody wrong, you don't want to buy from the people that are doing it, whose idea it was. And I think this is the fundamental underestimation of the sustainable consumer base that lots of people seem to be trying to market to right now. I think they're underestimating our fury. And I think that's why so many creators on your feed, you might have seen, were working with Wild, and I was one of them. Because it's not just that I liked the product, although I did. I'm sure that if I had a conversation with somebody at Wild, they'd be like, well, we're making the same products that we're always making, and you like the products, so what's the problem? We're going to make the same products. Your main consumer base are people who know there are better products on the market, products that smell nicer, products that are easier to get hold of, products that are maybe cheaper. Look, I would never have moved from my strong and stable Imperial leather, however many pina colada scents you put in your deodorant. I was set. But Wild deodorant was I believe, being bought by people for whom those products that were cheaper, made out of plastic, mainstream products, those became off the table for them morally, because they were like, wow, animal testing, that seems kind of bad. Plastic, selfishly, I think that might destroy the planet, and I think I live on the planet, so I don't really want that from a selfish perspective. These aren't necessarily altruistic hippies. These are just people that are watching their own TVs and reading the news and thinking, holy shit, this is kind of serious. So then, because all those brands become kind of mentally off the table for you, you start picking from the brands that are on the table, and they are brands that aren't owned by Unilever. It's kind of like having a boyfriend that's like, yes, I am sleeping with your mum, But I think you need to remember the nice Valentine's present I got for you last week. I'm still going to take you on all the same dates. I'm the same person, I like the same music. You're sleeping with my mum. That's like the biggest fucked up thing here. How are you missing it? I really hope that somebody who's walking around this wood did not just hear me shout, "You're sleeping with my mum." So yeah, I think there's a misunderstanding when it comes to purity versus direction. And the fact that, like, this is personal. To a lot of people, I think we're encouraged to separate work from life. That's a necessity for a lot of people. That has been a necessity for me in the past, but it's not how I'd like things to be in the future, and I don't want to accept that for myself if I don't need to. And what's weird about this job is that unintentionally, you know, that's my real name on the channel. Do you know what I mean? Like, this isn't a persona, this isn't the character, I haven't been hired to play Lena on the Lena show. This is just my face, and obviously it's public facing, and I'm still kind of at work, and I have like a professional side to my YouTube self, but it is my name. Because it is my name! I will not have another as long as I live. Any other drama kids in the house? No? No? The point is that what I think brands don't understand is that, unlike placing an ad on the tube, on a train, in a toilet stall, in a magazine, creators risk a lot when they work with a brand. The stakes are so much higher. If you diminish your brand by not being consistent and honest, you can't just shut it down and open a new you. You can't declare bankruptcy on yourself. And that's why I think they should be paid, honestly, more than traditional advertising, because the stakes are so much higher, therefore the results are so much better. And I'm not being funny, in this day and age, a lot of the time they get a lot more reach. But that's a story for a different day. We simply don't have time. As a customer of Wild, because that's what I am now, a potential customer, I could keep buying from them. I won't be working with them, but I could keep buying from them secretly and not tell you. But the reason that I'm not doing that is because now Wild are owned by Unilever, my purchase becomes an offset rather than a statement of intent. Before, my purchase was saying, I'd like these people to have the money because I don't believe in monopolies, and I don't want any of the profits from anything that I buy going to bad places, to people who intentionally, directly, repeatedly, probably doing bad things. Not like we're moving in a new direction, you never know. Like, they literally built the system and they've been doing it for decades. This isn't an accident, this isn't a work in progress. They're driving the tractor that's gonna run your bloody house down. And I think that if the thing is, from growing a brand from the bottom up, the only way to do that in this day and age of like dumpster fire business exposure is through boycotting groups like consumers who intentionally boycott, through their goodwill, through their word of mouth, through their social channels, and through small influencers like me working with them. Like I said, I didn't charge them a lot of money because I thought we were on the same bloody side, and they were like, we don't have that much money, sorry. And I'm like, that's fine, we can make it work. I'll do it for under market value because you and me, we're the scrappy guys. There is a lot of goodwill, like this is it's just business, it's just business. It can't be just business, because when small brands become big brands, the only way they do that is through goodwill. And if you build up goodwill because you say you have all these beliefs and then you actually don't, it's kind of annoying, it's kind of rude. I'm not gonna like lose sleep over it, but like some influencer comms might have been like the bare minimum, you know? So yes, if you were wondering, I have cut quite severe ties with Unilever, who were pretending to be a brand called Wild. And this is obviously not a sob story. There is a big debate in the cruelty-free vegan vegetarian world about, like, do you buy from companies that are doing something vegan but aren't actually vegan companies? And I think there's a difference between what we buy and what we promote and what we're excited about and what we give like free exposure to, or if you're me, you promote on your channels in the very small slots that you give for brands. Now, hindsight is 2020, of course, but something that always did worry me about these cases was that I was like, they do only fit Wild refills, that you're kind of locked into a system. But I was like, it's fine, because why, you know, why would anything go wrong? So another thing that troubles me is that I've obviously, like, with my full chest promoted you lot also getting these metal tin cases that only fit Wild products, ya bastards. I bet there's like a business term for that, isn't it? Like locking somebody into a system by buying the case cheap and then selling it in. Anyway, let me know in the comments below what that is. But anyway, we're in one of those binds. However, some of you have informed me that Fussy, a brand that is cruelty-free and vegan and B Corp certified and available in supermarkets, those refills actually fit in here. And I tried it at home this morning, and you're bloody right. I haven't tried the deodorant yet, but I'm just saying those fit. So if you're somebody who feels the way I do about Wild and also wants to stop buying from them, there's that option. I have also been testing, while I've been trying to calm down for the past few months, Axe deodorant. This is the end of my Axe tube, and I've had a great time. My armpits are a little sensitive, so the only days that I can't use this is if I've just shaved my armpits, which admittedly happens rarely. When I do, when I feel moved, when the spirit moves me to shave my armpits, I can't use this on those days. But apart from that, I'm having a great time, and there is no console for this. Like, you just use up the packaging, which is aluminium, and you can recycle this, I believe. And like, this is owned by two very wholesome West End performers who developed a deodorant that would work for them under stage lights in their downtime, and their catchphrase is tested on West End performers, not animals. So I really like them so far. But I bought this with my own money and I'm just trying it out, so that's another clue if you do want to give up on Wild like I am. But yeah, thank you for sticking with me. It's tough out there. Be nice to your local influencer. It's very, very hard to know who the wolves are and who is in sheep's clothing. But I also feel really lucky to have this completely customizable career where I get to build my business model from the ground up, and I get to choose what goes in and what goes out. So in that way, I'm really grateful that I can just drop a sponsor because they piss me off, and I don't have to then like think about how I'm going to turn the lights on next month, you know what I mean? And part of that is, like, as I always mention, thanks to the Gumption Club, they support me on Patreon so that I don't have to work with brands if I don't want to. And let's just say, from this, I don't know how long this rant's been, but I feel like I've been in this woods forever. It might be clear to you that I don't want to. I don't think you have to make a moral judgment on other consumers at the bottom of the food chain who will still buy from a brand like this. Ultimately, I think there's a difference between using a brand because it's the best of a bad bunch and promoting a brand with your whole soul and heart. And I definitely won't be doing either. But there are brands that I buy from that aren't ideal. Like, I buy my sausages, my vegan, vegetarian sausages from a brand that makes meat sausages. That kind of annoys me, but they also make sausages that I can eat. So I'm doing that, but I'd never take a sponsorship from them. Do you see what I mean? So don't be getting mad at any of your friends if they want to stay with Wild. If you want to stay with Wild and you're just a person in the world, just like I'm just a woman in a wood, that's totally fine as well. But I wanted to make this video because I feel like I have been so in public support of Wild for so many years that it'd be weird if I didn't then come and make something that was like, by the way, no longer supporting this. So now you know. Let me know how you feel. Like, how does this muddy the water for you when it comes to who you decide to buy from? Does it matter who the parent company is? Maybe it's not Unilever, maybe it's somebody smaller and somebody who doesn't have as many awful information out there on the internet about them. To what extent do you think this kind of thinking applies, or if it applies at all? Always welcome to be corrected, discussed with respectfully in the comments. And if you don't want your fellow influencers to work with brands like this, and they have an avenue like I do for supporting them on something like Patreon, do that if you can. If you're consuming their content for free and you can, this is a great community way to move the influencer industry away from people who are literally trying to take the floor from us. I don't know if you've noticed, but that's the floor. And when we say we're trying to save the earth or the environment, man, we're just trying to save that. And I don't know how good your levitation skills are, but I have no other way of existing as a human than standing on that floor. So we need to protect the floor. You know what I mean? Thank you so much for watching. Frog Snog out.